で、ここに、画面にあるように、最初はまず北朝鮮の概要を日本語で説明してるけど、まあ、ほとんど知ってる内容で、ただまあ GDP の 25% が軍事費なんですよね。で、その他にも彼は軍事費以外で兵隊に贈り物してるんで、それは相当な予算なんで、実際に一般予算って GDP の半分ぐらい。で、実際核開発と ICBM の開発だけでも先進国並みの予算を使ってるのは事実で、実際どれだけ使ってるのかわからない。で、期限があればすぐに100万単位の餓死者が出るっていうのが今の状態。ただ政治はだから、あんまり報道されてないけど、相当不安定だと思うね。国内の情勢はね。だから、金正恩を支持するとか、支援するとか思ってる人は多分いない。で、まあ、今の状態、金正恩の状態がいつまで続くかってのもう続くわけないんで。ただアメリカが中国、ロシアに経済制裁を呼びかけているけど、中国が対応してるふりしてるけど、ロシアも実際にはやらないと思うね。中国は、とかロシアはそれなりに思惑があってやらない。中国の場合は、北朝鮮を意図的に崩壊させるっていうふうな、メリットない。ただ問題なのは、あまりにも金正恩が、アメリカに脅しをかけて、韓国が、核軍備するとか、日本がするとかいうような動きが出てきたら、それは慌てるだろうけど。まずそれはない。ロシアが、例えば実際石油とかなんとかっていうのはロシアがもう提供してるんですね。で、ロシアは、なぜアメリカに協力的じゃないかっていうと、もともとロシアっていうのは歴史的にアメリカに散々騙されたりやられたりしてるんで、要するにアメリカに反対するっていうか、アメリカに協力したくないっていうのは歴史的にあるんですよ。そういうところがある。だから今の体制そのものは相当無理があって、維持できない。それが、まあ僕の予測だったら半年とか3年かわからないけど、まあどっかで崩壊する。まあ、やっぱり財政的に破綻しちゃうと思うんですね。維持できない。アメリカみたいに金があるわけじゃないから。で、破綻したら中国は、北朝鮮の国家を維持する。今の体制まで、傀儡政権を立てて、で、まあ、統一させるってことは絶対させないと思うんで。で、今中国自身は中華帝国として韓国のペニンシュラを持ってるんで、で、それはそういう意味での属国としての位置づけを今後、執着していくだろうという。最終的にはやっぱアメリカ軍を韓国から撤退させたいと。それが筋道で、まあ3年、まあ韓国がアメリカが出てるかどうかっていうのは、北朝鮮を崩壊して中国が傀儡政権立てたら、アメリカ軍はいない人は撤退するんだろうね。そういうリスクはもうないから。だから3年から5年ぐらいかな。だから北朝鮮はだから僕自身はもう、セトルしたというふうに、いつも言ってるのはこうした背景で言ってるんだよね。だから、よく会食した時に北朝鮮の議論をする、偉い人いますけど、こういう説明をして納得してもらってる。で、最近はトランプとキム・ジョンウンがいろいろ議論してるけど、やっぱり口論っていうかね、で北朝鮮も真面目に水爆を太平洋に移すなんてことは考えてないはずで。それ自分の国がもうそれすぐ崩壊しちゃうからね、戦争になったら。メリットないんで。まあ自国の利益考えてもメリットないから、それはしない。 ただ、アメリカは、売り言葉に買い言葉でトランプはこういろいろ、キム・ジョンウンはわーわーわー言ってるけど、まあ何考えてるかと、まあほっときゃ潰れるだろうみたいに、思ってると思うんですね。それは当然、韓国のスパイ使って、北朝鮮の情勢を探ってね、で、今どうなってんだってことを調べて、でそういうふうな背景があると思う。で、以下のやつは英文は最近これ、掲載してる各社から、あなた本当に全部許可取ってんのって言われて、許可の取ってないんで、それでいろいろ内容変えたりして、ここにサインが大変だったんだけど、英語のやつはまあね、まあ日本語でこれ本出してるんで、アメリカとかいうとこのドットコムは、僕が登用してるのは、まあ、例えば、どこかな、まあ、BBC とかね、言ってこないと思うんですけど、日本語のやつはね、全部書き直したんですよ。それであとは日本語の先生の文章について書き直して、で、あとはこの先生のとこ参照してくださいっていうふうに URL をつけるようなやり方にしたんですね。で、USB はね、YouTube はね、中身そのものをコピーしてるわけじゃないから、だから翻訳してるんで、それはまあ、問題ないと思う。あとはなんか、調べたら、ウィキペディアはね、使っていいみたいですね。だから、できるだけウィキペディアに変えて、変えきれないものあるけど、まあ、今まで、大東亜戦争の、南京の話とか、慰安婦はもう、めんどくさいからいじってないんですけど、それ以降の、大学院の教科書で使いたいっていうデモクラシーのやつは、これも含めてその前の本も、全部書き直したんですね。書き直したって、そう、大した労力じゃなかったんですけど、要するに、大学の先生のやつ引用したのを全部削って、URL を参照してくれるにしたりね。もしくは、熟議民主主義って前やったと思うけど、あれの先生の話は、僕なりに書き直してね、やってこの先生は詳しく書いてあるんで、この先生の URL 見てくれみたいに書き直したんで、多分ね、問題ないと思うんですよね。日本人は結構そういうこと言ってくる可能性があるんだけど、これ今もう次回からこれiTunes の、なんとか、Google と、それからね、もう一個どこだっけな、本当っていう、なんとか有名なとこだから、3つ本出してるんですよ。もしくは20社ぐらい出してるんだけど、Amazon 以外はね、ほとんど売れないのね。で、Amazon だけに、もうこの次の本、今書いてる本から、Amazon だけにしちゃおうと思ってる。めんどくさいから。大変なんですよ、これ、本を出版するのって、プロツイジャー。まあ1時間かそこでできることできるんだけど、ね、ただエラーが出たり直したりっていう、いろいろ、あと知ったかどうかは知らないけど、EPUB っていうね、コピーできない書体に変換したりしなくちゃいけなかったり、なんか結構制約が多くて。で、Amazon は簡単なんだけど、ただ Amazon の場合は、日本語で英語しかできない。中国語できないね。中国政府を意識して。まあそんなことがあって、まあ今そういうふうなことでちょっと、今週は大変だったですね。あんまり進展なくて、もう次の一冊は、これ、この間出したやつだけど、次の一冊は南アジアと中近東で、量が多いんでね、いつもの 1.5 倍ぐらいにあるんで、まあ本を分けようかと思ったんだけど、まあいいや、もう分けないでも出しようと思ってるんですよ。それは来週、だからちょうど9月、来週中に書けるから最終的な本の出版は、10月中旬ぐらいかな。書いてからやっぱり軸の訂正っていうか考え方を書き換えるっていうのは結構やってるんで、全部見て国ごとのコメント書いて、あと1週間ぐらいでじゃあ今回の南アジアと、今度は中近東のコンセプトどういうふうにしようか。この今言ったノースアジアのコンセプトっていうのはあれだよね、チャイナだからやっぱり IT 革命だよね、今回はね。で、北朝鮮はね、今説明したように、実態ね、どうなってんのかっていうのを、結構引用いっぱい持ってきて、今日だから結構時間があるからちょうどいいんだけど、多分終わんないかもしれないけど、でもそれを、できるだけ相当数多くの YouTube 見てね、で、選んで、まあ、こんな状況だろうっていうのは、これ見たらわかるようになってるんで、で、今日それをやろう。で、次は、YouTube で、これはもう、ごく当たり前の内容だけど、ちょっと読んでみると、The Democratic People's Republic Korea, known as, more commonly as North Korea, is a communist state and dictatorship. まあ、世界にも本当に冠たる独裁国家珍しいくらいだよね。While Pak Pon-ju、これ知らなかったね。Pak Pon-juってね。Current Premier って、現在主席ね。is the head of nation's government. 多分あなたも知らないと思うけど。Pak Pon-ju っていう第4位順位がね。内閣総理大臣。Kim Jong-un leads the National Defense Commission of North Korea というのは彼の正式なタイトル。Okay. The country emerged in 1948 amid the chaos following the end of the Second World War. Its history is dominated by the great leader Kim Il-sung, who shaped political affairs for almost half a century. Decades of this rigid state-controlled system have led to stagnation and leadership dependent on the cult of personality. ね。ちょっと待ってくれ。スタグネーションってどういう意味だっけ？警戒。ああ、そうだ。
警戒だと。
そうだよね。要するに、ちょっと待ってよ。不況、停滞ね。不況。The totalitarian state also stand accused of systematic human rights abuses. まあそうだね。グラがあるからね。The government is accused of keeping its people in a state of ignorance through tight control of the media. Radio and TV sets in North Korea are pre-tuned to government stations that pump out a steady stream of propaganda. The press and broadcasters, all of them under direct state control, serve up a menu of flattering reports about North Korean leader. Economic leadership has famines are not reported. North Korea is one of the hardest countries for foreign media to cover. まあ、common sense だね。次はね、インサイドストーリー。これ有名なんだけど、インサイドストーリーって有名だけど。What to do about North Korea. で、これインサイドストーリーってディベートなんだ、いつもね。North Korea latest and biggest nuclear bomb test caused earthquake in, これ最新のやつだね。in China and Russia. And the political shock wave have reached all around the world. Donald Trump described the North as a rogue nation, which continues to be very hostile and dangerous to the United States. South Korea has started live fire drills to strongly warn its northern neighbor, and the UN Security Council held its second emergency meeting in a week, but stiff sanctions have already been imposed without stopping the missiles being launched or the test bombs being detonated. So what now? And does the military response risk the beginning of another world war? で、これプレゼンターがジェーン・ダットンっていう、この人も有名な人で。ゲストはアイザック・ストーン・フィッシュ、センター・オン・ US-China Relations。それから、ビクター・ガオ、China National Association of International Studies。それから、ロバート・ケリー、International Relations Specialist。 で、何をここで言ってるかっていうと、北朝鮮第6回に核実験を行ったら、さらなる経済制裁をアメリカが行おうとしている。トランプは北朝鮮取引をしている国にも制裁すると言っている。これは中国とロシアのこと。この言葉、ナンセンスって言ったらこんなのできないよね。この北朝鮮制裁なんかできなくて、アメリカが中国との経済関係をすることができない。北朝鮮は今までは 90% 石炭。90% なんですよ。中国に輸出してるのは。で、中国から石油と食料を輸入して、ロシアもね、ロシアからも輸入してるんですね。北朝鮮の挑発に対して。中国もロシアもですね、やってないよって言うんだけど、実際に、宇宙衛星から見ると、中国なんか盛んにこう、船をね、食料輸送船をね、石炭輸送船に行ったり来たりしてる。見える。で、あとトランプの言動には守備一貫性はないと。これは前からそうだよね。彼は守備一貫性。テラソンもマティスもそれぞれ意見が違う。それぞれ、見方が多少違うのよ。一方で中国、ロシアはどこまで制裁する気なのかわからない。ロシアがね、北朝鮮を、中国、ロシアはアメリカとの関係において双方の関係を安定する方向に模索するに違いない。まあ、安定させる方向っていうのはまあ、やってるよっていう、嘘をつくと。北朝鮮は見つからないようにね、北朝鮮は核開発の問いを緩めることはしない。中国の立場としては北朝鮮を崩壊すると、100万人の難民が中国に来るだろうし、国境がアメリカと直接接することになる。結局、周辺諸国が北朝鮮に対して、徹底的にどう制裁するしか方法がないのだろうが、中国、ロシアもアメリカの経済制裁に表向きしか協力しないだろうっていうのは、この最後のところはね、僕の意見ですね。いや、結局、また制裁をかけてるんですけど、中国なんかその銀行をね、北朝鮮と銀行取引やめるってまた、今週言ってるけど、表向きだけだと思いますね。完全になんていうかな、首を絞めない。例えばパチンコは北朝鮮の人たちがやってるんですけど、日本はね。で、送金してるんですけど、その話をやめるって聞いたことないんだよね。多分ね、タッチできないんだと思うんですよ。日本政府でも。どうしてかわかんないけど、やっぱり。どうしてかわかんないけど、やっぱり言った人が暗殺されるとか、そういうのあんのかな。
なんか昨日か一昨日トランプを大統領令にまた署名したって
トランプはね、一生懸命言うんだけどね、日本のこと言わないでしょ？中国とかロシアしか。
確かに、そうですね。
日本ってすごい金送ってるんですよね。アメリカ政府は多分分かってるんですよね。いじれないっていうの。だから、結局できないんですよね。すべて。例えば、キム・ジョンウンの個人資産凍結なんて、やめたでしょ？だからできないんだと思うんですよね。どうしてかわかんないけど。どうしてかわかんないけどできないんですよね。どうしてでしょうね。
そうですね。日本のパチンコ止めらん、まあ、どうなんですかね。できないんですね。
できない。例えばさ、全部止めちゃったらさ、キム・ジョンウンは核実験できないんですよね。でもね、それできない。これね、なんかね、裏があってね、僕わかんないですけどね、本当にやっぱりね、ダーティーポリティクスがあると思うんですね。ダーティーディプロマシーとかね、ダーティーなね、世界があるんですよ。だからトランプが言ってるの分かって、売り言葉に買い言葉みたいなこと言っててね、お前破壊してやるぞって言うけど、これ口だけでさ、制裁も口だけで分かってるんですよね、アメリカは。だからね、よく分かんないですよね。ただ、はっきり言えることは、制裁しようがしまいが、ね、GDP の 25% も軍事費使って、国が持つわけがないんですよ。それはだから分かってるんですよ、アメリカも日本もね。だからまあ、言わせとけよっていうぐらいでしょう。孫君なんかね、あんま勉強してないから、戦争しろって言ってるけど、そんなことありえないんですよね。これあれ あ、あれあ、高く出てきちゃった。あれあ、こっちだ。こっちだ。これがですね、えーっと、ちょっと待ってね。これがですね、今日のビデオ。
っていうことは、表面的に事態が決着したときに、どうやって自分たちの国が有利な立場を取るかっていうことで。
あ、北朝鮮
をめぐって、今の状態をどうするかっていうんじゃなくて、物事は、北朝鮮がどういう結末になるかっていうのは大体そんなに多くのシナリオになって、北朝鮮がどうにかなった時に、どうやって自分たちの立場を、中国、ロシア、アメリカ、それぞれがどうやって自分たちに有利なポジションを残しておけるかっていうことでいろいろ動いてるっていう。
パキスタンと一緒ですよ。パキスタンそのうちやりますけどね、核水爆持ってるでしょ。で、核開発が完全にミサイルが ICBM がアメリカに到達するよってことを彼がプルーブになればね、世界中が北朝鮮を潰せなくなるわけですよ。もうすでにその段階来てるんですけど、そうなってくると北朝鮮っていうのは潰せなくなるんだ。あとだから、キム・ジョンウンが何考えてるかというと、対外的にね、安定した関係が築けるわけですよ。それができたら今度国内の、要するに不満文書をいっぱい殺してきたけど、それでも彼は命狙われてるわけですよね。だから次に彼がやろうとしてるのは、核開発が安定してきたらば、国民の生活レベルを上げようと今、娯楽施設とかいろいろ作ってるけど、スキー場とか。なんで、国民が満足するわけないんで、餓死者いっぱい出てるんで。で、それをやっぱりこの生活のレベルを向上するように彼は考えてるんですね、きっと。だからそれを書いてないけど、次のステップとしては、北朝鮮はもうこの1年で核開発が完了しちゃって、世界がそれを認めると北朝鮮を潰そうという、制裁っていうのはなくなると思うんですよね。だって、インドもそうだし、パキスタンもそうだけど、イスラエルもそうだけど、核を持ってる国って潰さないじゃないですか。で、北朝鮮とどちらかというとみんなローグカントリーって潰そうとしてますよね。でもそれは潰せなくなるんで、あとは今度は、国の中で、クーが起こらない、クーデターが起こらないように、どうするかっていうことを彼が次の対策でやる。それまでは、今まで反体制派の連中をみんな粛清してきたわけですよ。でそれがやっぱキム・ジョンウンの考えで、あの男はバカじゃなくて、そういうこと考えてますよ。だから、巷が騒ぐようなっていうか、やっぱり表層的なね、現象しか捕まえてなくて、この北朝鮮をこう僕が全部調べた結果としては、そういうことをキム・ジョンウンが考えて、そこまで書いても読む人は信用しないだろうから、書いてないけど、でも半年から3年しか持たない。どういうことかっていうと、もっと正確に言えば、3年から3年以内で核開発が完了して、書き加えてもいいけど、完了して、あとは国内の安定化を図ることによって、北朝鮮の存続をどうするかっていうキム・ジョンウンを考えているっていうのは答えなんですけどね。
で、それ以降も自分が関わっていく。それはなんか彼は保身みたいな気持ちはあるんですか？
もちろんありますよ。だから彼は自分の命も欲しいし、ただなんでこうやって核開発して、それはおじいさんとか親父が言ってきたから核開発。周りが反対するからそれをやめるっていうことをしてないんで、周りに圧力かけてるだけで制裁してるのは、核開発やめろって言うんで制裁してるわけでしょ。で彼はおじいさんからの遺言でやめられないんですよ。で、核開発やめてさ、で、やめたよってね、イラクの、フセインみたいになっちゃうから、リビアのカダフィみたいになっちゃうから、殺されると思ってるんですよ、やめたら。アメリカに。それは事実なんですよ。で、それはもう書いてないんだけど、実際には殺されちゃうんですよね。やめたら。だから彼たちやるしかないんですね。国をかけて。国民はどんな貧しくても。だからただその時に、今核開発やる時にその前の、おじさん殺したり、いろいろ反対派を全部殺していったんですね。で、核開発やって、アメリカが、 核をやめるよって言ったら、キム・ジョン殺されちゃうんで。で、あと、キム・ジョンナムを殺したのは、やっぱり中国の替え玉で残してるっていうことを彼もすごい気にして、やっぱりその反対派を殺すつもりで殺したんだと思うんですよね。だから彼としては、1年以内に核が安定したら、今度はその、貧しい農民をね、どうやって生活豊かにするかということに持っていこうと思いますよ。
うん。
で、要するにその、後期発展途上国っていうのは、あとずっと出てくる国っていうのは、バングラデシュとか、みんな、アフガニスタンとかも、フェールド施設で、国家は全く安定しないんですよね。で、首相を殺したり、大統領殺されたりして、こうするんで、彼として今の基盤としては反対してきそうな上層部みんな粛清しちゃってるんですよね。
うん。
これは、独裁政権というか、後期発展途上国の典型的なパターンですよね。
うん。
反対するやつみんな消しちゃうっていう。で、そうして、貧しい中でも、とりあえずやっていけるような体制を作って、で、あとはだから、核予算が 25% から 10% ぐらい抑えられればね、できればそんな撃たないから、も
うん。
う。だから、あんな回し撃ってから大変なんで、そうなってくれば今度は、その予算を貧困に向けてね、食料をどうやって備蓄するかっていうことを考える。だから食料援助とかなんとかってもロシアは中国くれるから、アメリカくれなくても。それはそれでもって、もちろん日本のパチンコなんか金も送ってくれるんで、それでもって彼らが立ち直れるっていうのは、そういうふうに思ってる僕はね。だからそんな大きなね、問題じゃないってことは今回分かったの。
うん。
ただ僕は今言ったようなことまでね、書いてないんですよ。書いてもいいんだけどね。まあ、ここでは3年から5年しか、半年から3年持たんすと崩壊する。で、中国はそれに乗っかるって言ってますけど、僕は崩壊しないと思ったんですよ。
うん。
ここに書いてないんだけど、ね、書いてもいいかな、やっぱり。崩壊しないと思ったんですよ。それが、この散々調べたね、結果。で、これまずね、Inside Story, what to do about North Korea. これディベートなんでね、ちょっと一応見てみましょう。で、単語を左に出したら。
World War III. What are the other options?
ちょっと待ってね、これ。
Hello, welcome to the program. I'm Jane Dutton. Earlier this week, we spoke of the diplomatic tit-for-tat between the US and Russia. Look to the east, and there's a military one. South Korea has been conducting live fire drills to, quote, strongly warn its northern neighbor, who allegedly launched its largest nuclear test yet over the weekend. North Korea says it detonated a hydrogen bomb underground. It is the country's 6th nuclear test blast since 2006. That's led to a UN Security Council emergency meeting, the second one in a week, and they're considering ways to deter North Korea from conducting more tests. But the UNSC has already imposed stiff sanctions on the country, so what else can they do?
これさ、UN サンクションって国連がね、制裁してるけども、トランプは演説で、先ほどぐらいやったのかな。
はい。
トランプ言ったのが言ったかな。初めて国連に対する存在を彼に認めてるんだけど、今まで言ってきてるのはもう、国連はもう、アホだ間抜けだって言って、全く能力無能だって言うんですよ。無能。それは彼の本音ですよね。日本政府もそう思ってるんですよね。だから、国連がいろいろ例えば事務総長の警告出すでしょ。あれはだから、俺も変だなと思ったけど、やっぱアメリカ政府は、またなんかバカなこと言ってるよくないし考えてないのね。で、日本政府はそんなこと言わないんだけど、でもやっぱり主だった国ってもうそう思って、国連の、第一次世界大戦の時の国際連盟と一緒だよね。存在価値がない。イギリスがEU 脱退した時に、ヨーロッパ議会あるでしょ？ヨーロッパ議会もね、同じなんですよ。6万人かな、従業員がいて。で、 無駄なことやってるんですよね。だから彼は、中で改善すればいいんだけど、多分ね、国連ってね、改善できないみたいですね。例えば、職員を半分にするとか、もしくは会議やめるとかってなんかできないみたいですよね。聞いたことないんだよね、国連改革って。で、いつも国連事務総長ってさ、どっかの、先進国か発展途上国の事務総長になるでしょ？そんなやつがなったってさ、誰も聞かないよね。そんなこと分かってるのにさ、なぜそうするのかって。アメリカだってさ、国連の拠出金払わなかったりしてるでしょ？これは不思議でしょうがないの、僕。なぜそんなこと彼らはね、やってんのか。で、ものすごい金かけてさ、200個ぐらい集まってやってるわけでしょ？全くナンセンスだと思ったよね。
これ、わかんないんですけど、2回大きな戦争をやって、で、まあ、こうやって各国が自分の身銭を切ってお金をかけてせっかく集まってなんかやってるんだから、大したことはできないけど、一応顔を合わせてなんか話し合うみたいなことを素振りだけでもするっていうことで。
あ、そうだよ、そう。
まあなんていうか、積極的な意味じゃなくて、こう、セーフネットというか、必要枠みたいなことで存在しているっていうことですかね。
それはね、価値があるの。僕はなぜかっていうとね、青年監視やってきてね。で、青年監視もやっぱり回答ってさ、誰でもなれるから、先進国じゃないところの回答になれるんだけど、彼らやってる活動そのものは、まあ、青年会の場合は国連違って、もっとまともなこと、まあ、国連もそうだけどまともな機関があって、ユネスコとかね、まともなことやってるとこもあるんだけど、実際には世界中の人が集まってコミュニケーションする場なんだよね。で国連もやっぱりそういう場で、よく、安倍さんも国連の場使って、首脳会議やってるでしょ？それがね、一つ大きな目的なんだよね。いっぺんに何個もできるんじゃない？ OK.
US President Donald Trump has a few ideas after the latest North Korea test. He tweeted that the United States is considering, in addition to other options, stopping all trade with any country doing business with North Korea. How feasible is that plan, and what other options are on the table? We'll get to our guest in just a moment, but first, Wayne Hay has this report from Seoul.
Early on Monday morning, South Korea's military responded to the latest agitation from the north. It was a relatively small answer to North Korea's most powerful nuclear bomb test so far. But by firing missiles at practice targets in the East Sea, the South sent a message that it can strike important locations in the north, such as its nuclear test centre, and its ballistic missile sites, which could carry a nuclear warhead. South Korea's defence ministry says it detected activity at one of those sites, which could indicate another launch is coming soon.
We predict that North Korea could fire another intercontinental ballistic missile to show that they have obtained the means of delivering a nuclear bomb to the United States.
South Korean commanders say there'll be another live fire drill this month, as well as negotiations with the United States to send an aircraft carrier and bombers. The South Korean government knows that direct military action against the North comes with huge risk, but at the same time it feels that a diplomatic response on its own isn't enough, so it wants to put on a show of force. By doing so, South Koreans hope they can pressure their northern neighbour into backing down, something it seems unwilling to do. At the same time, analysts believe it's too late to attack the North.
They have a lot of research facilities. They have produced already a large amount of the nuclear material. Everything is safely hidden, so it's impossible to seriously damage their program but by one or two precision strikes.
South Korea is also improving its defences and deterrent, announcing the full deployment of the THAAD high-altitude missile interceptor system. The partial deployment of the US batteries in April was met with protests by South Koreans concerned about health and environmental risks. China
これはあれだよね、もう一回やったよね、この後ね。北朝鮮のミサイルでね。太平洋に落ちたよね。で、サードが、追加で入れたよね。韓国はね。サード。
はい。
で、そのおかげでヒュンダイチャイナが、もうほとんど車売れなくなって、撤退決めだよね。3本ね。
Chinese government leaders also opposed the system they say could be used by the United States to spy on China. South Korea's government says it's needed to protect it from attack by North Korea, but the full deployment of the US missile shield is expected to further complicate an already delicate and dangerous situation. Wayne Hay, Al Jazeera, Seoul.
A lot of the pressure to contain North Korea falls on China because of the country's reliance on its Chinese neighbor. Coal is North Korea's main export, and most of it goes to China. In fact, the country is estimated to account for 90% of North Korea's foreign trade. In return, the North receives vital resources such as Chinese oil and food. There's concerns that cutting off those imports would hurt North Korean citizens without curtailing Kim Jong-un's nuclear bomb program. Well, to give us more insight on who can really rein in North Koreans' ambitions and all the other issues raised by this latest test, let's bring in our guests, Isaac Stone-Fish, Senior Fellow at the Asia Society Center on U.S.-China Relations in New York, Victor Gao, Director of China National Association of International Studies in Beijing, and Robert Kelly, Specialist on International Relations of Asia and U.S. Foreign Policy in Busan, South Korea. Welcome to the show, everyone. Robert Kelly, if North Korea wasn't taken seriously before, this certainly has changed, hasn't it?
It certainly has. It's not clear to me why North Korea needs a weapon as powerful as a hydrogen bomb. I do think that North Korea achieved nuclear deterrence with just the fission weapons that it had before. It's not really clear to me that they needed to make this step up. I suppose technologically it's possible, right? It's not that difficult to do anymore. The Soviets and the Americans got fusion weapons pretty quickly, but I mean, you don't really need a weapon of this power for sort of strategic defense anymore, right? I mean, this is just about terrorizing civilians, and I think that's why we're talking about this as an extraordinarily powerful weapon. And, they just shot a rocket over Japan the other day. I mean, everybody's scared now.
Not only terrorizing civilians, but it seems that he's backed South Korea and the U.S. possibly into a corner.
Yes, I think Donald Trump, to a certain extent, has painted himself into a corner because he talked so tough in the last couple of weeks, right? That fire and fury comment, right? I mean, that was sort of heard around the world. But striking North Korea is hugely dangerous for reasons that have been enumerated very frequently. South Korea is extremely vulnerable to North Korean retaliation. It's one of the reasons why there's never been a response to a North Korean provocation despite decades of them. And so Donald Trump now, I think, is in sort of an awkward position. He said that he's going to respond in some way, but it's not really clear that he has options that the Clinton administration, Obama, and Bush administration before him didn't have, or also might not have had. And so I'm not really sure what he's going to do. I think he's sort of put himself into a position now where he's going to end up looking like he bluffed and the North Koreans called him.
That not knowing what he's really going to do.
まあちょっと早すぎてよくわかんないんだけど、彼が言ってるのは、前のクリントンとかオバマは結局放置してきちゃったんで。で、今、トランプが、キム・ジョンウンと、に対して、いろいろこう、ブラフっていうか、鎌かけてるけど、彼が言いたいのは、実際にアクションしないだろう。そういうことだね、言ってるのね。ね。
はい。
Victor Gao, the psychological game that he seems to be playing, I mean, it seems to be working, doesn't it? He's done very well with the little that he's had.
Well, I would say the situation involving the DPRK's nuclear weapon program and launch vehicle program has really reached a tipping point. And the moment of the truth will come very soon. Either the United States will need to decide to do something very dramatically, or, for example, the status quo on the Korean Peninsula would need to be recognized one way or another by one country or another. Now, as far as China is concerned, China refuses to recognize DPRK as a nuclear weapon country, and China has insisted all along that complete denuclearization need to be achieved as a goal on the Korean Peninsula, and China, Japan, the United States, Russia, South Korea, etc. need to work very closely to create enough momentum and conditions to achieve denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula. And right now, I think it's very important for the United States to avoid sending out mixed, confused signals, and the United States need to really be consistent in its position.
彼ら中国もやっぱり、当然のことなら北朝鮮核武装化は反対で、一番気にしているのは今ここで言ってるように、トランプが、守備一貫しない発言をしていることに対して非常に、心配してる。守備一貫してない話し方がね。中国は心配してる。プーチンも同じこと言ってるから。
And really consider how to achieve the denuclearization goal, but also how to address the fundamental underlying concern on the part of DPRK about its survival and about the possibility of the United States overwhelming and derailing the political system and regime in DPRK.
彼言ってるのすごくまともなこと言ってるよね。
A unified response might be the hardest thing here, though, don't you think, Isaac Stonefish?
I do. I think part of the problems the Trump administration has had since the beginning is that it doesn't have a unified voice, and Trump doesn't know whether to listen to Tillerson, to Mattis, to his often unruly impulses, and because of that, we're not getting the kind of policy coherence that would be really useful for dealing with a problem of this magnitude.
I mean, is there a policy in the US when it comes to North Korea? Is there a definitive game plan?
I really hope the answer to that is yes. I think, though, instead there are a lot of different competing policies, different competing ideas. Tillerson, the Secretary of State, seems to want to have a more restrained policy towards North Korea, something involving more dialogue, more openness. Trump really seems to want to, like you said, keep all options on the table, to allow for some sort of very aggressive response. Mattis is kind of moving in between Tillerson's camp and Trump's camp, and I really don't think there is, this is our plan. There's no strategic patience, which is the Obama administration's often mocked strategy of letting North Korea continue to grow its nuclear and weapons capability. But yeah, I don't think there is a there right now.
Robert, you laughed at that. More my question, does that suggest that you feel that there is no plan? That, once again we're seeing Trump and his administration playing two different games here?
I think Mr. Fish was exactly correct. I was just laughing because I thought he was being so polite about it. I would argue that the Trump administration has just been all over the place on North Korea, quite honestly. During the war scare in the spring, the Trump administration had something like, if I remember, had like 4 policies within the space of like 9 days, right? They sort of swung from all options on the table to maximum pressure to we're going to talk to them, right? I mean, it really, really helped. The Trump administration had an East Asia staff, which they really don't. We need an ambassador here in South Korea. It's been 6 months or 8 months now since they've been in there. We don't have an ambassador. Right. I mean, the Trump administration needs to take this more seriously, especially if the president's going to go on TV and say stuff like fire and fury. And the whole world took that to mean a threat to start a nuclear war.
Okay, but he has taken it seriously. Trump's latest tweet, he said the United States is considering, in addition to other options, stopping all trade with any country doing business with North Korea.
Yeah, that's just another sort of fantastical statement that's just not going to go anywhere, right? I mean, I actually retweeted in response to that myself, not that the president read it. But I actually tweeted in response, I'm basically saying it's China, right? Because 90% of North Korea's trade, 92% actually goes through China, which is an issue I suppose we'll talk about. But, right, what does that mean? We're going to embargo China, the world's second largest GDP? I mean, that's just a non-starter. You bring the world economy into a recession if the Americans and Chinese stop interacting economically, right? I mean, the president's got to sort of come out with something more serious, more real. Missile defense is what I think we should be talking about. But we're not going to embargo China. I don't know what that means.
Victor, what was the response there to that tweet? I mean, were there a few heads nodding in agreement? I can't imagine so.
I think President Donald Trump needs to come up with a higher level of sophistication and realism and pragmatism in facing up to the DPRK nuclear weapon.
まあ前の早口の彼氏も、この彼も、もうちょっと、大人の会話をしてほしいと言ってんだよね。ちょっと要するに、まあだけど、僕自身はキム・ジョンウンみたいな言い方してくれば、トランプみたいな子供じみた返答するっていうのは、彼はトランプ意識してやってるんだろうけど、でも彼らここに来てる連中は、なんていうか、衝動的な会話をやるのは、やたら不安を煽るだけだからやめてほしいって言ってるのね。
Program. And first and foremost, President Donald Trump really need to bring along a sense of realism in realizing if you really want to incentivize China to do the right thing on DPRK nuclear program, you cannot antagonize China on other major strategic issues, whereas on the DPRK nuclear weapon issue, you need to get maximum Chinese help. China
do you think this could lead to a backlash if it were to go ahead? Could this lead to a backlash against U.S. business relations?
I hope not. China-U.S. relations, especially in the economic and trade sectors, are so important, and neither China nor the United States want to face up with a prospect of a trade war or so-called embargo against China, for example, because that really will push the world economy into a big recession and resulting in loss of jobs in terms of millions of jobs, possibly, in the United States. Therefore, I hope President Donald Trump will be more educated in his views and positions. And also, being the President of the United States, whatever he says or tweets has global implications and consequences. And the DPRK nuclear weapon program is a matter of such utmost importance that it deserves the highest and most sophisticated and careful analysis and decision-making rather than, very amateurish and childish play of games on the global stage.
彼結構まともな人ですよね。僕はこの人初めて聞いたけどね。
Do you think that this tweet could gain traction anyway?
I think it's a very absurd tweet, not only because of China's trade with the DPRK, but there are plenty of other countries that are major American trading partners that have trade relations with the DPRK. So it's not only cutting off trade between the U.S. and China, but between the U.S. and a huge swath of the world's economy. So sort of, it's in a strange way threatening to make America isolated in a way that, countries like North Korea and China used to be isolated. It's just a very, very bizarre thing that he and the Treasury Secretary said yesterday. And I think one of the mistakes that we've seen Trump have with regards to China and North Korea is this idea that the United States can go in and tell China, which on many levels is roughly the same level of power as the United States, can go in and just tell China, this is the way we're going to deal with the North Korean issue. And we have to imagine things from Xi's perspective. If a leader of another country says, hey, this is the way that you have to deal with one of your most important relationships, it's hard for him to do it in that way and still maintain face. I mean, if Chinese President Xi Jinping told Donald Trump that this is the way that the U.S. had to deal with, say, Cuba or Mexico, it's hard to imagine Trump being able to publicly swallow that. And I don't think we can expect Xi to just do what Trump says just because Trump is asking him to do so.
Victor, is that one of the reasons why it's quite hard for both the US and China to get onto the same page? I mean, I know that there are years and years of issues behind their not particularly strong relationship, but could this be one of the factors? And, at the same time, I know it's probably happening right now, there's a United Nations Security Council meeting happening. deciding how to go forward as far as North Korea is concerned, and they're looking at sanctions on oil. How does China feel about that, considering how important it is to China and North Korea?
No, I would say that the United Nations Security Council agreed sanctions against DPRK for its violations of the nuclear weapon program agreement are very, very important, and China has always been faithfully abiding by the United Nations Security Council sanctions against DPRK. China's uniqueness is that China insists that to the extent of humanitarian reasons, sanctions should not apply to those goods or services which have a direct bearing on the livelihood and the living standards of the ordinary people in DPRK. And
彼、こうやって言ってるでしょ？だから、本当のこと言ってると思うんですよ。だから、中国、北朝鮮の一般大衆の生活に影響を与えるようなサンクションしちゃいけないと言ってるんですよ。これは正しいんだよね。
うん。
だけど、そのためにサンクションを緩めるわけで逃げ道を作るわけだけど、でも実際にはそういうことをすることは、例えばどこまでが制裁なのか、どこまでが一般対象を救うのかっていうのは、境界線なんていうのははっきりしないわけだから、結局、政府の意向、中国上層部の意向を待って、北朝鮮を潰さないっていう、それが、なんていうのかな。核開発することを中国自身は好ましいと思ってないわけですよね。かといって、北朝鮮が崩壊されても困るんで、今、要するに、さっき言ったように、金正恩がいろいろ反対派を殺したり、粛清してるんで、国民がすごい今、フラストレーション溜まってるから、そこに火を注ぐようなことをしたら、国家崩壊しちゃうんで、それは困るっていうのは、中国の考え方。中国は、輸出を止めないっていうのは、そこに彼らの大義名分があるんですよね。そこら辺のところまでやっぱり把握してないと、やっぱりなぜ中国が抜け道でもって、食料とか燃料を補給してるのか。燃料って石油なんかもそうなんだけど、一般大衆もこの冬ね、やっぱり彼ら石油ないとやっぱりやっていけないですよね。
And in recent years, I think the Chinese government really has put this all the way to the hilt in terms of implementing the terms, the letters and the spirits of the United Nations.
Well, I don't think that's the general feeling, is it, Robert? I mean, it's rather opaque when it comes to, how much crude China sells to North Korea, for example. I mean, there are a lot of questions raised about how strong or stringently China sticks to these sanctions, any sanctions.
Yes, that is correct. There's a pretty big debate on that. I would argue that the Western analyst community on Korean issues would say that the Chinese are actually not enforcing the sanctions as much as they need to and as much as they could. I don't know if we want to have that sort of debate here and now, but I think there's a strong consensus among sort of the Westerners who work in this stuff and I would say South Koreans too. I mean, I live here and I go to conferences all the time, and I think the South Koreans are also convinced the Chinese can do a great deal more. I've flown into North Korea myself from China, and you can watch people bust the sanctions. They walk right on the plane with bags full of chocolate and liquor and hair dryers and stuff like that. All that stuff is blocked, and they just let them walk on the plane, right? I think the bigger issue is not just sort of the goods trade across the rivers. That's obviously sort of a big deal. There's a lot of illicit stuff going on as well. There's a lot of suspicion that the Chinese look the other way on that. And the other big issue coming down the pipe is North Korean money in Chinese banks, secondary sanctions. If the United States really takes that seriously, it could cause a major rift with the Chinese. But that's probably where we have to go now, because the North Koreans are only going to listen and we start going after their money. We can't bomb them, right? It's been established that we really can't airstrike them. It's way too risky, and so I think we have to start going after their money, or it becomes sort of like a missile defense game, right, where we just start stacking missile defense in Japan and South Korea because we have no choice, because the North Koreans just aren't going to stop building missiles.
I mean, that's an issue in itself, isn't it, Victor? If South Korea ramps up its nuclear program, Japan gets pushed into changing its pacifist constitution even more. I mean, you wonder where it stops.
Yes, indeed, I would say DPRK's nuclear program and consistent and continued violations of the United Nations Security Council resolutions are a scourge in this part of the world, and it has dire consequences. And I would say, given the recent launch vehicle testing, which flew above Hokkaido in Japan, and the more recent testing of the so-called hydrogen bomb, really have pushed the situation on the Korean Peninsula to the tipping point. And this is really worrying because going forward, we may directly face the choice of peace and war. And if war does break out, and I sincerely hope it will not, but if it does break out, it will have very, very serious consequences for the people on the Korean Peninsula, but also for the people in this whole part of the world, including in China. So this is no longer a simple matter, a childish matter. This is probably one of the most serious matters in the world today, with a direct bearing on peace and stability or war and calamity in the world.
I think, I mean, do you...
ちょっと聞き直しちゃって、さっきチョコレートをなんとかドライヤーとか持ち込むのをいっぱい持ち込んでるよって、あれを排除してるって言ったんだっけ？そうじゃなくて持ち込んでるよって言ったんだっけ？
チョコレート？
うん。ドライヤーとか持ち込んでる。俺に、どこだっけな。この人が。どこだっけ？忘れちゃった。あ、これだ。
Walk right onto the plane with bags full of chocolate and liquor and hair dryers and stuff like that. All that stuff is blocked.
Also, all stuff is blocked.
And they just let them walk on the plane. Right? I mean, I think the bigger issue.
だからやっぱり北朝鮮にも北京から飛行機飛んでっから、北朝鮮。だからそこにやっぱりいろいろ荷物持ち込むのを禁止してんだよ。だから実際にはだから、飛行機の場合はもうバレちゃうから、ブロックしてんだよね。
Issue is not just sort of the goods trade across the rivers, that's obviously
river cross the river.
Sort of a big deal. There's a lot of illicit stuff going on as well. And there's a lot of suspicion that the Chinese look the
やってんだよ、これね。だから、飛行機はダメだけど。
other way on that. And the other big issue coming down the pipe is North Korean money in Chinese banks, secondary sanctions. If the United States really takes that seriously, it could cause a major rift with the Chinese. But that's probably where we have to go now, because the North Koreans are only going to listen if we start going after their money. We can't bomb them, right? It's been established that we really can't airstrike them. It's way too risky, and so I think we have to start going after their money, or it becomes sort of like a missile defense game, right, where we just start stacking missile defense in Japan and South Korea because we have no choice because the North Koreans just aren't going to stop building missiles.
I mean, that's an issue in itself, isn't it, Victor? If South Korea ramps up its nuclear program, Japan gets pushed into changing its pacifist constitution even more. I mean, you wonder where it stops.
Yes, indeed, I would say DPRK's nuclear program and consistent and continued violations of the United Nations Security Council resolutions are a scourge in this part of the world, and it has dire consequences. And I would say, given the recent launch vehicle testing, which flew above Hokkaido in Japan, and the more recent testing of the so-called hydrogen bomb, really have pushed the situation on the Korean Peninsula to the tipping point. And this is really worrying because going forward, we may directly face the choice of peace and war. And if war does break out, and I sincerely hope it will not, but if it does break out, it will have very, very serious consequences for the people on the Korean Peninsula, but also for the people in this whole part of the world, including in China. So this is no longer a simple matter, a childish matter. This is probably one of the most serious matters in the world today, with a direct bearing on peace and stability or war and calamity in the world.
Isaac,
彼みたいな英語をみんな喋ってくれると、すごく助かるんだけどね。
do you agree that a military option is possibly off the table because of the horrendous fallout? And if Kim Jong-un has successfully divided those who are standing against him, I mean, what are the options now? Where to from here?
I hope that a military option is off the table. It's very difficult. You know, it's funny having watched Asia for so long and then finally having a leader like Trump who's in many ways as unpredictable as, you know, what we're used to seeing in China and North Korea. So, yes, rationally speaking, a military option could have devastating consequences, like Victor said, for people of Korea, for other people in Asia, and for Americans. And frankly, if we do go to war with North Korea, which I hope we never do, we don't know what side China is going to come in on. You know, China will certainly be involved in some way. It's too important of a conflict for them to just step aside, and we don't know where the chips will fall if that were to happen. So
Victor, is China
it's a very, very dangerous game that you shouldn't be playing.
No, I think as far as China is concerned, on the one hand, there is a mutual friendship treaty, which is a mutual defense treaty between China and DPRK. Its exact legal status is in limbo, and I think on one occasion the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson basically said that treaty was designed to maintain peace and stability on the Korean Peninsula, and if any party will take action which result in destabilizing the situation on the Korean Peninsula, then China may have reason to think twice about what exactly will be the applicability of that particular treaty as far as China is concerned. That's on the one hand. Now, on the other hand, I think equally important, China and the United States are now the two largest economies and most likely the two most powerful countries in the world. And I hope between China and the United States on the DPRK nuclear weapon program, they will see eye to eye on all the major aspects of this particular issue, because any difference between them will be played around by DPRK, and eventually the situation on the Korean Peninsula will be made worse and not better. And therefore, how China and the United States can really better coordinate their action, promoting peace, promoting the peaceful resolution of the nuclear weapon crisis on the Korean Peninsula is of utmost importance.
Robert, Donald Trump in a...
これは北朝鮮と中国は防衛協定っていうのディフェンストリティが結んでる。知らなかったけど。だから、アメリカが攻撃したら、中国は北朝鮮を守るっていうことをしないからね。それは、トランプも分かってる。
The tweet also lashed out at South Korea over its relationship or its actions towards North Korea in the past. We know that that's not going to work, and we know that threatening North Korea doesn't work. So what's going to happen now?
Sure. I think sanctions are often unfairly condemned because I think they're often held to an unfair counterfactual, which is to say that if the sanctions only work, then North Korea wouldn't have nuclear weapons. I don't think that's true. I think a better way to judge sanctions is if we didn't have them, how much further along with North Korea's nuclear program be? Would they have had a hydrogen weapon 5 years ago instead of now? Would they have, 1,000 missiles instead of a couple hundred or something like that? So we have to keep up the sanctions pressure. We need to go back. We need to push the Chinese to really enforce the sanctions. We need to get the Chinese to respect the panel of experts that oversees the multilateral sanctions framework and take it more seriously. That's the first thing. I still do believe that the route to Pyongyang goes through Beijing. The Chinese won't come around. Then it's going to become a sort of measure versus countermeasure arms race in which missile defense is going to be paired off against missiles. The North Koreans can build more missiles. Chinese and the South Koreans have to build more missile defense. The problem is that missile defense per unit is a lot more expensive than missiles, and so if the North
Okay, I'm
Koreans
going to
don't
have to
stop
cut you off there because I'm afraid we've run out of time. Thank you very much.
これ最後で彼が言ったのは、サンクションはしても有効じゃないって言ったんだっけ、そこの前の。アンフェアって
言って。北朝鮮がミサイルを持っていなければ、サンクションは、効くと、持っていない時にしか効かないから意味がない。それは、まあ、実際にはそうじゃないだろうって言ってたような気がします。
これさ、なんで彼、これじゃないの
Sanctions are often
unfairly condemned.
Them because I think they're often held to an unfair counterfactual, which is to say that if the sanctions only work, then North Korea wouldn't have nuclear weapons.
Sanction only work ね。あと言ってると。
I don't think that
won't have nuclear weapon.
that's true. I think
だから、核、を持ってなければそれはいい。でも、
a better way to judge sanctions is that we didn't have them. How much further along would North Korea's nuclear program be? Would they have had a hydrogen weapon 5 years ago instead of now? Would they have, 1,000 missiles instead of a couple hundred or something like that? So we have to keep up the sanctions pressure. We need to go
ただそうは言っても、we have to keep up the sanction pressure.
back. We need to push the Chinese to really enforce the sanctions.
そうは言っても、やっぱサンクションを中国と協力し、理解を得てやる必要ある。そう言ってんだよね。
To respect the panel of experts that oversees the
そうだね。ということで、このビデオはそういうことなんです。まあそういうことだね。ただ、これ、まあ彼ら言ってるのに、発言してる人も分かってると思うけど、さっき中国の、彼が言ったようにね、この、ビクター・ガオさんが言ったように、まあ、北朝鮮の、大衆の生活がかかってるから、石油とか食料をやめることはできないって言ってんだよね。それアメリカ言うように、協力はするけど、っていうの。確かに協力はするんだけれども、止められないんだよね。ただ僕はさっき言ったように分かんないのは、日本の北朝鮮のパチンコとかなんとかって、ああいう風なそれともう一つここではまだ出てきてないけど、北朝鮮の労働者が10万人ぐらい海外で仕事してるんですよね。これなんかもトランプはやめるようにって言うけど、それやめないよね。だから基本的には、制裁してもできない。だからトランプとキム・ジョンウンがいろいろ、喧嘩の、会話をやってるけど、あれは、分かっててやってんだよね。それで、制裁もできないって分かっててやってんだよね。だからさっき言ったように、結論はだから、北朝鮮がもう昔のクリントンの頃からの資料を見た時も見たんだけど、クリントンの時にもう中国、北朝鮮が核弾頭を持ってるっていうようなことをアメリカ政府は思ってたんだよね。その時にやめればっていうようなことを今の人言ってるけど、 当時の政府はもう持ってたっていう認識を持って付き合ってたんだよね。だからやめられなかったんだよね。実際核弾頭は持ってなかったんだけど。だから今の段階では、制裁はやっぱり世界の手前ね、やるよっていう言わざるを得ない。ね？
はい。
で言ってるだけなんだよね。で、時間が経過していく中で、キム・ジョンウンも、これ以上ミサイル撃ってこないでしょ。撃ってきたらもう本当にアホだと思うんですよね。今ほっとけばさ、もうアメリカは認めてるわけだから、アメリカ本土にね、核ミサイルがその1年とかそういうのできちゃうよって分かってるわけでしょ。で、そういう情報を北朝鮮がリークすればいいわけですよね。実験しなくても。そうですよね。そういうことなんですね。これは読んだんだ。まあそういうことですよね。次はね、これ面白いビデオでね、Money and Power in North Korea, the Hidden Economy Documentary でね、これはノースコリアオフィシャル、これいらないよね。North Korea is a country in East Asia. Peninsula name いらないよね、これ。Kingdom. Goguryeo also spelled Goryeo. Goguryeo. Hmm? これいらないよね。At the end of World War II in 1945, the Korean Peninsula was divided into two zones along the 38th parallel, with the northern half of the peninsula occupied by the Soviet Union and the southern half by the United States. The initial hope for unified, independent Korea evaporated as the politics of Cold War resulted in the establishment of two separate states with diametrically opposed political, economic, and social system. まあこれいい。Soviet General Terentiev Shidkov 知らないな。Terentiev Shidkov recommended the establishment of the Soviet Civil Authority in October 1945 and supported Kim Il-sung as the chairman of the Provisional People's Committee for North Korea, established in February 1946. During the provisional government, Sitkov's chief accomplishment was a sweeping land reform program that broke North Korea's stratified class system. Landlord and Japanese collaborators fled to south, where there was no land. Japanese collaborators fled to the south, where there was no land reform and sporadic unrest. Sitkov nationalized key industries and led the Soviet delegation to talk on the future of Korea in Moscow and Seoul. In September 1946, South Korean citizens had risen up against the Allied military government. これ知らなかったね。Allied military government. はじめ4カ国が統治したんですよね。In April 1948, uprising of Jeju Islander was violently clashed. チェジュアイランダー、チェジュって日本語、最終暴動。 チェジュ最終島ね。The South declared its statehood in May 1948, and 2 months later, the ardent anti-communistシングマン・リーね。シングマン・リーは、なんだっけな。シングマン・リーは、李承晩。シングマン・リー became its ruler. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea was established in North on 9 September 1948. Shirikov served as the first Soviet ambassador, while Kim Il-sung became premier. これ、キム・イルソンプレミアって言うけど、さっき今の北朝鮮って、プレミアって誰か知らない人がプレミアって言うけど、キム・ジョンウンは、国家なんとか会議の議長みたいな形になってるけど、この当時はキム・イルソン became premier 主席。Soviet forces withdrew from the north in 1948, and most American forces withdrew from the south the following year. Ambassador Shitukov suspected Lee was planning to invade the north and was sympathetic to Kim's goal of Korean unification under socialism. The two successfully lobbied Joseph Stalin to support a short blitzkrieg of the south, which culminated in the outbreak of Korean War. これね、多分これ中身これ違う。いや、でもこういうふうに朝鮮戦争始まるとこまで書いてるけど、マネー&パワーのコリア中身違う中身だと思うんで、これ元のやつからコピーしてきたんだけど、
最後の朝鮮戦争は、
朝鮮戦争だ。朝鮮戦争のとこまで書いてないけど、この中身がちょっと違う。この YouTube の紹介で南北朝鮮の分断まで書いてないが、やっぱ書いて、北朝鮮のお金の稼ぎ方と裏経済の実態紹介してる。これね、取っちゃってもいいんだよね。まあいいけどね、マカオ拠点になっていることから、キム・ジョンナムがそこに住んでいたのを名付ける。だから、この中はこういうこと書いてある。2003年にキム・ジョンウン第一書記の叔父で、ナンバー2と見られた、なんだっけこれ。なんだよね。なんだっけチャンセムソク。なんて言うんだっけな。これは、なんて言うんだか。チャンソンテック。あれそうかなこれ日本語読みなんだよね。違うんだよね。どうやって見ればわかんだろう。これ日本語しか書いてない。チャンクムソン。これさ、子供の名前は英語で書いてるのに、本人の名前書いてないんだよ。ジャンスンテック。こうかな。違うわ。 スンテック。あ。こうだ。あ、そうだ。あ、違う、スペルが違う。これが正しい。ジャンソンタック。ね。ここはどこだっけ。これ、英語で書いとかないと。ね。で、これあと6億ドルも毎年、金正恩がお金を送ってるんだよね。軍隊とか、いろんな人たち。6億ドルだよ。金正恩の2倍。
金正恩が国家の貢献者の贈り物をしてる。
ああ、そうそうそう。全体6割の金額。6割って何の6割？全体。総予算の6割が裏金。全体の総予算の6割が裏金。だからさっき止めるとこの贈り物ができなくなる。ビデオの中にはアフリカのセネガルが出るからね。だからそういう支援もしてんだよね。10万人。海外で稼ぎ10万人さっき言ったね。ああ、そう。だから、チャンソンタック。彼は、中国を真似してね、経済の自由化しようとしたんですよね。でもこれは結局、処刑したのは結局、さっき言った背景があって、まあ最終的には金正恩もね、こういう風にしようと思ってるんですよ。中国に習って。ただまず最初に核開発が最初だ。ということなんですね。もう書いといた方がいいかな。あ、これね、面白いです。38 North Expert っていうサイトでね、The biggest change in North Korea is the emergence of middle class。これね、ここに書いてある文章はね、なんとさ、ビデオのやつを全部ね、書いてくれて。全部。ジョークネイバービデオかける、ちびさんが出現しますので、これね、ビデオ見ればね、同じこと書いてある。携帯電話300万人に普及してる。知らなかったなぁ。
ノースコリア。
うん。この英語の文章は同じこと書いてある。中産階級が出現していると。いや、それは僕ね、本当だと思うんですよ。
38 North is a program of the U.S. Korea Institute at Johns Hopkins University dedicated to providing analysis of events in and around North Korea. Their blog is authored by its faculty and guest commentators, including Dr. Rudiger Frank, a longtime North Korea expert, an economist, and a professor of East Asian Studies at the University of Vienna. Dr. Frank was educated at Kim Il-sung University in North Korea and has been visiting the reclusive state for the past 24 years. I recently had a chance to sit down with him. In this part 2 of my two-part interview, we discussed the state of the North Korean economy and the emergence of what he called a middle class in North Korea. What would you say is the state of the North Korean economy at this point?
Well, it's obviously in a stage of transition. For someone who's going to North Korea as regularly as I do for 25 years now, it's obvious the country is changing. Not fast and not always at the pace we want, but definitely in a visible way, and I think also in a way that can't be wound back. For example, the existence of markets where people can go and buy whatever they want in case they have the money, that's something that wasn't there. I'm really hesitant to call them black markets, those Changmadang, because they are legal, at least the ones that I have seen. They are heavily guarded. In order to trade there, you have to have a license.
I have also heard of young entrepreneurs in North Korea. Are there entrepreneurs?
Oh, yes. Usually they are in the restaurant business or in the tourism business. These are things where you can actually be an entrepreneur in North Korea. Obviously, you need to have some kind of connection, because you will not be really a private entrepreneur, but it all takes place under the cover of some collective, but de facto, yes. And many young people I met from the educated middle class, they actually dream about entering business, opening their own restaurant, coffee shop, or tourism company.
You said middle class. So are you saying that there is a middle class in North Korea?
Very obviously. That's one of the big changes that I have observed in the last 24 years, that this middle class has actually emerged. You now do have people who look differently, who are more fashionably dressed, who have mobile phones, who have the right body language, who are very self-confident on the streets, not only of Pyongyang, but also of Cheongjin, Pyeongseong, Sariwon, any other major North Korean city.
So are we seeing an emergence of capitalism in North Korea?
Well, I would say what we see is the attempt by the state to use different means to achieve economic progress.
At least the middle class in North Korea have had a taste of what money can bring them.
Absolutely, yes. And this is transforming their whole outlook on life, because they understand whatever you want to get, if you have money, you can get it.
Can we anticipate a unification like that of Germany?
Definitely no. To begin with, because Korea and Germany are so different. If we look at the changes going on in North Korea right now, leading to 3 million owners of mobile phones by now, and the emergence of a middle class, and learning capitalism from the Chinese, and an increasing readiness by the leadership to accept that. If we look at that and project it into the future, if it goes on for another 10 or 15 years, then South Korea will be negotiating unification with a partner that is more equal. Not necessarily equal in economic power, although I think North Korea can even surpass South Korea one day, because they have the border with China, they have the raw materials there, and they are lacking technology and capital, but that can be brought in. But what's more important is South Korea will negotiate with North Korea that understands the rules of the game, which was not the case for the East German leadership in 1990, when the negotiations were held about German unification. So it will be a completely different situation, and I think it's important that South Korea understands that and prepares for that.
ということです。今喋ったの全部ここに書いてある。珍しいよね、これ。全部書いてある。
書いてあったんですか？もう書いてあった。
もう書いてある。言った通り全部書いてある。珍しい。で、北朝鮮は基本的な人口は2500万ですね。 ライフエクスペクタンシーは66で女が72で結構まあ歴史はここに書いてあるけど、だから、で、あとは、これは、キム・ジョンナムのね、殺害の、North Korea assassination, the VOA Asia in minutes host Steve Miller discusses the additional news coming out of Malaysia regarding the assassination of Kim Jong-nam, half brother of North Korea leader Kim Jong-un. まあ、これ、短いビデオだけど、ちょっと、キム・ジョンナムを殺すところのビデオ。まあ、有名なビデオ。2月の、短い。
The investigation into who killed the half-brother of North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un appears to be expanding. This week, Malaysian police said the two women suspected of poisoning Kim Jong-nam at Kuala Lumpur International Airport last week were not only trained by North Korean operatives, they knew exactly what they were doing. Video from Kuala Lumpur shows one of the women grabbing Kim Jong-nam from behind and holding something over his face. At least one of the women claimed she was tricked into attacking Kim, believing that she was taking part in some kind of television prank. Now, two others have already been arrested in connection with the attack, and authorities say they are trying to find additional suspects, including Hyun Kwang-sung from the North Korean embassy in Kuala Lumpur, and Kim Ok-il, an employee of North Korea's state-owned airline. Kim Jong-nam was once considered the heir apparent to lead North Korea, but fell out of favor with his father Kim Jong-il back in 2001. South Korea says Kim Jong-un issued a standing order for his half-brother's assassination after the younger brother took power back in 2011. And as we go to air, Malaysian authorities have now identified the deadly chemical toxin that may have been used to kill Kim Jong-nam. We get the latest now from the host of VOA's Asia in a Minute, our very own Steve Miller. Steve Miller, you've been up to date on this. What are we finding out about the chemical that was used to allegedly kill Kim Jong-nam?
Well, Malaysian authorities say it's VX nerve agent, a relatively small quantity.
Which is a bad substance.
It's a bad substance, a very deadly substance. Very small quantities can be used to kill someone, whether it be taken in through the skin or through mucous membranes in the eyes or nose or face.
So how deadly is this chemical actually?
It is very deadly. I mean, very small amounts, trace amounts can actually kill a person, and that may have been what we see in here. The autopsy from the police say that evidence of VX nerve agent was found on the face and in the eyes of Kim Jong-nam in Malaysia. Now, what they've also said is that they aren't sure how it got into the country. They're currently investigating that. They're currently investigating where all these suspects traveled to in the airport and around Malaysia, and also if it was truly a very small amount, it would be almost incredibly hard to detect.
Who have access to that kind of VX nerve agent?
Well, South Korea has said that they believe that North Korea has tons of chemical agents at their disposal. So it could have come from North Korea. It really doesn't know because the Malaysian officials haven't been able to determine how it got into the country.
Right. So North Korea obviously denying that it had any role in this. And one of the suggestions that I heard is, how could this be this VX nerve agent when these women had their hands exposed? How did they survive something as
well, right. North Korea continues to question the neutrality and the unbiased nature of the investigation. They say that Malaysia is being duped by either the United States or South Korea and trying to paint North Korea as this. And again, the question is, how did these women not get sick or fall ill if it truly was VX nerve agent? Some people say that perhaps they sprayed on some kind of latex or second skin to give them some protection, or if it was truly a very, very small amount, perhaps the thicker skin on the hand gave them some kind of protection, which is why they went to the washroom right afterwards to wash it off.
So obviously what we have is a lot of circumstantial evidence, no smoking gun. So what we do have is motive, correct?
Well, in some cases. I mean, Kim Jong-nam was looked at as possibly a replacement for Kim Jong-il, but again, as you mentioned in this
He was initially the first choice, correct?
At one point, yes.
As the elder brother.
As the elder brother, as the oldest brother, but in 2001, he tried to go to Tokyo and visit Japanese Disneyland there, and that kind of didn't go well, so he fell out of favor. So there's also reports in 2012-ish that Kim Jong-un tried to assassinate him, and that there had been that standing order. So this would fall in line with that narrative.
North Korea's pretty much only friend in that region has been China for the longest time. Have they weighed in at all on this?
これすごいよね。こうやって全部見れるよね。
Investigation.
Well, I spoke to a number of analysts this week, and what they said is that if you look at Sino-North Korean relations, China accepts a lot of behavior that North Korea does, as long as it doesn't
They've been
undermine.
quite lenient in the past.
Well, they view it as long as it doesn't undermine Chinese interests, they're willing to accept a certain degree of behavior
Does
from
this
North
now
Korea.
cross that threshold?
What they told me was that if this changes the status quo and North Korea is put back on a terrorism watch list, we could see a change in behavior from Beijing towards Pyongyang.
So it could change the relationship there.
It just really depends on what
Haven't they
evidence
already
is.
started making inroads that way? Didn't China stop shipping coal?
That's a very good point, but one of the analysts told me is that China's allowed to import a certain amount of coal every year,
right,
and it's unknown how much coal has been imported so far. So if the quota for the year under the sanctions has already been met, then China canceling further imports would be seen as meeting the sanctions requirement and could be also viewed as promoting themselves as being tougher on China when in fact they couldn't legally import more.
So how is the assassination of Kim Jong-un's half-brother resounding in South Korea, for
Well,
example?
it certainly is topping a lot of news stories in South Korea, but they're also dealing with the tail end of the Park Geun-hye impeachment trial, which is...
They're in the midst of a political scandal, aren't they?
In the midst of political scandal, it continued on this week. Closing arguments for the impeachment trial at the Constitutional Court are set for Monday the 27th, and there's been jockeying back and forth by Park's lawyers saying that the court is too biased against her and trying to seek more time in that.
So, Steve, what's the upshot of that, of all this back and forth? Are we stuck in a bureaucratic kind of situation, or is it just more back and forth, political grumbling from both sides, or can we see actually something concrete happening there?
In South Korea?
Yeah.
Well, the court has said that absolutely on the 27th they will have the closing arguments, that the impeachment case and trial will end that day, and that they will move towards the adjudication of the matter, and really hope to have a decision on the impeachment of Park Geun-hye sometime in March before another just.
これね、結果、パク・クンヘイの、インピーチメントは、結局どういうふうな結果で彼女が判決になっても僕わかんないんだけど、あれが捕まりましたよね。サムソンの、総帥っていうか創業者の息子がね、最近ね。
This term ends.
So let's wrap this up with the latest we know on the Kim Jong-nam assassination. Where does this investigation go from here? Because I understand Interpol has now been contacted.
Right. So there are 4 people in custody: Malaysian woman, Indonesian woman, her boyfriend who's from Malaysia, a Vietnamese woman, 1 North Korean. 4 North Koreans fled the country, and that is where Malaysian authorities have sought Interpol's assistance in tracking them down.
They're looking for North Korean diplomats, right?
Well, there is one who has been identified, a second secretary, I believe, at the embassy that they would like to question, and they are trying to facilitate that as well.
So this story is ongoing, and we expect to have you back on for the latest updates on this international assassination that's turning into almost something like something we see in a movie, right? Well, Steve Miller, thank you so much for all that information.
スティーブ・ミラーって、ハゲてる人ね。これ、エイジアンニュースかなんかやってる人なんですよね。VOA か。VOA のエイジアってやってる人なんで。この人、音声でね、ボイスオブアメリカか、これ。ボイスオブアメリカか。ボイスオブアメリカエイジアね。前よくね、これ、 見てたんですよ。僕なんで貼り付けないかっていうとね、これ音声なんですよ。それでね、僕は利用してないんで、この人ね、ボイスオブアメリカのエイジアの責任者なんだ。そういうことですね。まあちょっと。これはなんだっけな。これは、北朝鮮の歴史だ。これ長いんだよね、確か。北朝鮮の兵士120万いるんだ。さらに230万人の追加が可能なんだ。で、ソウルは1200万人。で、キム・ジョンイルの時代に、近で100万人以上の餓死が出ても彼に対する忠誠心は変わることがなかったって。日本の植民地時代における記述は大部分が偏見。これ日本の植民地時代の記述があるんだよ。偏見で、日本の軍部が慰安婦を強制し、多くの労働者を強制徴用したという、嘘だよね。朝鮮戦争では40万人の韓国人、3万7千人のアメリカ人が死んだ。北朝鮮と中国は140万人が死んだ。キム・イルソンは、核開発を、キム・イルソンの時に核開発を始めたんだよね。1994年、ビル・クリントン、ジミー・カーターが平常に飛んで、キム・イルソンなんだね。石油援助する条件で北朝鮮の核開発を中止させることができた。で、すぐにキム・イルソンが死んじゃったんだよ。で、息子になって、息子はカリスマ性がなかったんで、公安を強化して、管理を厳しくして、で、数多くの強制地、グーラグね、送り込む。で、ずっと GDP の3割5割が無事当てられてきた。で、1998年に日本上空を追加する3大ロケットを飛んだと知らなかったね。この頃はもうだから核ができてるというふうにアメリカも世界は間違えてたね。2000年にオルブライト国務長官平常に向かって金日成、金正日と会って、で、300マイル以上の飛行するミサイルの数をやめると約束するんです。これ2回目だよね。最初が、この時だから、1994年1回目ね。これまた騙されて2回目。騙されたんですけど、2001年ジョージ・ブッシュが大統領になって北朝鮮を信用せず、悪の数軸ってね、いけない。悪の数軸って言いましたよね。アメリカ兵は長年毎年20億ドルを韓国に、20億ドル投資してきたんですよね、アメリカは。3万7千人いるんで、日本はね、何人いたっけ？日本軍。
日本もいるんですよ。
違う、日本なんていうのかな、在日米軍3万6千人。同じ数だ。ね。
そうですね。
2003年でまた決裂した。あれ、これ。で、 北朝鮮は、NPT から脱退したんね。で、ここに核兵器保有宣言を行えって。これね、持ってたのかなこの当時から。これ持ってたのかな ?2005 年に。地下核実験を、たださ、すごい小さい。この当時は小さすぎてさ、だから、阻止できたんだよね。この中に、キム・ヒョンフイっていうね、キム・ヒョンヒなんだけど、キム・ヒョンフイ。出てくるのね。対韓航空爆発事件を実行した北朝鮮の工作員。
ああ、この人、
うん。でも、キム・ヒョンヒって、これ日本語なんて言うんだろう、キム、なんか、ただキム・ヒョンフイって言うんだよね。覚えてないと海外の人に通じない。これは、ドキュメンタリーだから。あれこれは長いわ。
They have the world on the brink of disaster.
ちょっと待ってね。この次は何だろう。これ長いわ。この次も長いのかな。これは脱北者のビデオなんですよ。うん。4ミパックだ。これも長いわ。
On the court black.
これだっかなあと2本。あとリパブリックコリアだね。じゃあこれ途中まで見て、その後続きまたお昼帰ってからやるか。
はい。
午後、始まる前。これは、これだ。これかなあれこれだよね。
This situation is very serious, and we don't have very much time.
They claim to have nuclear capability.
They could sell it to a terrorist organization.
Their leader controls the minds and hearts of his people, like communist dictators from another era.
The iron fist is stronger than anything we've seen anywhere else.
It's the most successful totalitarian regime ever constructed.
Why has this once strong and independent people allowed one of the most repressive regimes to survive?
This goes with the Korean tradition of monarchical power.
How has North Korea arrived at its unique and perilous place in the world?
これさ、キミルソンがもう強大なカリスマ性持ってたんだよね。で、キミルソンからキム・ジョンイルに変わって、カリスマ性がキム・ジョンイルになかったんだよね。
うん。
それでたくさん逮捕して、グーラグに強制収容に放り込んで、国家を維持したんだね。で、キミルソン。で、今の三代目は、もっとカリスマ性がないから。だから側近いっぱい殺してやって、だから、制度的にはこの三代でやっぱり、どんどん体制が弱くなったんだよね。うん。
Today. Kim Jong-il, absolute ruler of North Korea, is potentially the most dangerous man in power today. The man behind a virulent campaign of propaganda against the United States, Kim now claims to possess nuclear weapons and says he will use them if his regime is threatened. He rules over the most isolated nation on earth, a country the size of Mississippi, population 22
知らなかったミシシッピと同じサイズだね。
million. For years he remained a hidden and mysterious figure. Now he has taken center stage. Yet his true intentions and nature are still open to debate.
He was portrayed as basically a very weird kind of person that you had no idea what he was going to be like. But when I met him, he was actually quite charming.
He may not have a balanced personality. Sometimes he's very, very reckless, and sometimes he's very calm. But he's quite bright and almost brilliant in his thinking.
He's nobody's fool, but he's apparently a very quixotic, compulsive, rather rash man. That aspect of him is worrisome. In a leader who's going to have his finger on a nuclear trigger, maybe.
The full extent of Kim's nuclear capability is still unclear. But if he actually possesses atomic weapons, or the materials to make them, the threat reaches well beyond the region.
North Korea is ready to sell nuclear missile, nuclear weapons to any buyer at reasonable prices.
これ今でも言ってるよね。北朝鮮が核技術を、どこに売るかっていうことですごく関心が高いよね。テロリストに売ったらとんでもないことになるよね。その可能性があるんだよね。
You can't stop a handful of plutonium, which is all it takes to make a bomb, a sort of grapefruit-sized lump, from getting into North Korea. One of the things I fear about a nuclear North Korea is that it will sell plutonium to the likes of Osama bin Laden.
いや、だけどこれさ、結構確率高い話だよね。北朝鮮がさ、例えば、どこだろうな。リビアとかさ、石油の利権持って彼ら金持ってるでしょ？今、リビアって国、俺ブログ書いてるけど、右と左に東西分かれてるけど、あと、アイシスもいるんだよね。リビアって。リビアとかさ、あと、イエメンは金がないから、あれは買わないと思うけど、リビアとか、ああいうあたりが可能性高いよね。
The reality of nuclear weapons in North Korea could also lead to a perilous new arms race.
Immediately, Japan will go nuclear. Then you have China will be alarmed. So no time will you have Sino-Japanese arms race. These are huge countries.
もしこれが、例えば日本が、もしくは韓国が核装備すると言ったら、中国は直ちに北朝鮮の金正恩を潰すだろうね。なぜかっていうと、日本とか韓国が核装備したら、中国、もしくはアメリカが今、サイパンまで、核爆撃機を持ってきたんで、相当、ナーバスになって北朝鮮の時にね。今度さらに、韓国とか日本が核装備を検討するなんて言ったら中国大騒ぎするよね。
By all standards, the situation in Korea is difficult. The options limited. While the Bush administration does not rule out military action, the consequences of a second Korean War could be catastrophic.
どういうふうに思って、ブッシュは戦争しなかったのね。
今でも、例えばアメリカの米軍基地に、例えば核 ミサイルを配備したりしたら、逆に緊張高まっちゃう。
まあ、配備したら今度は、中国が、北朝鮮を間違いなく潰すよね。あらゆる手を使って。なぜかって北朝鮮にしてみ、中国にしてみればアメリカ、韓国に核持ってくるなんてのは脅威の何もでもないわけだから。すぐ僕は、金正恩を潰すと思いますよ。中国はそれはできると思うんだよね。彼らの、なぜかっていうと、なぜそんなこと言うかっていうと、なんだっけ北朝鮮の、中国側の、あれは何省って言ったかな。吉林省って言ったかな。朝鮮人が300万人いるんだよね。だから、5万人ぐらいのスパイを送り込むって簡単にできるんだよね。その気になれば。朝鮮語喋るから。それが入ってきて、絶対潰せる。アメリカはできないよね。そんな、スパイ、朝鮮語できるスパイそんな数いないから。中国はできるよね。
The North Korean military is the 5th largest military in the world. It has over 1.2 million in uniform and has the ability to mobilize 2 to 3 million more. They have the largest submarine fleet in the world. They don't view using
largest submarine fleet in the world. 本当?
chemical weapons as their weapons of mass destruction.
Oh, this is a chemical weapon あるんだね。
They see it as part of their normal doctrine.
Even without their use of missiles and unconventional weapons, an attack on North Korea could result in a devastating retaliation. Thousands of artillery rockets hidden in the hills just north of the border could reach South Korea's capital, Seoul, only 30 miles away, in under 3 minutes.
In 1994, the North Koreans said if anyone thinks they'll be contemplating an attack on North Korea, we can turn Seoul into a sea of fire.
ただね、これ今言ったアンコンベンショナルウィーポンが、ソウル向かってんだけど、いっぱいね、1000とか2000とか向かってんだけど、ソウルの全域を、爆撃できないんですよ。リーチできないの。ICBM じゃないから。半分ぐらいしかできない。それでね、ブログ書いたような気がするんだけど、じゃあ、ソウルの人が何人死ぬのかって言ったらね、1200万人のうち数千人だって言ってたよ。そんなにやっても。
There's no bigger threat than that. There are 12 million people in Seoul. South Korea can be reached by conventional cannon, not missiles, not the...
ね。コンベンショナルキャノン。通常兵器ね。
nuclear bomb.
Since the invasion of Iraq, North Korean officials fear that they will be the next target of U.S.
まあ、そうでしょう。
forces. But a crucial element of the American military strategy in Iraq was the expectation of support of the local population. In North Korea, this possibility is highly unlikely.
What happened in Baghdad will not happen in North Korea. North Koreans are very well indoctrinated.
Despite the enormity of their suffering over the last decade, that included a widespread famine, in which more than 1 million people starved to death.
これね、時々あるんですよ。ファミン。
The vast majority of North Koreans do not appear to hate their leader.
The level of popularity enjoyed by Kim Jong-il is
これ、キム・ジョンイルだからね。
unquestionable. There is no divisiveness.
でキム・ジョンイルの時は、フェミンがあっても、国家安定してた。ね。ところが、親父が、おじいさん死んでからは、この人は、なんていうの、そんなリーダーシップないからね。ましてや、キム・ジョン なんてないから。
Within the system, there's no dissensions or dissident groups. It would be very difficult for us to replace the regime. Then replace with what?
だから政権交代難しいよ。で、高橋ね、あとね、これ1時間ぐらいで飯食って帰ってくるから、この続きを見よう。あと40分ぐらいあるんだけど。
これアメリカが、グアムとか、沖縄とか韓国に持ってこない理由っていうのは、どういう理由なんですか？
何
アメリカが今その核、
いや、持ってきてるのか。核搭載の爆撃機が来たの。グアムに一回。来てるの。で、中国は北朝鮮を非難したの。だから、それは、中国は北朝鮮自身が核軍備すること以上に、アメリカが核兵器を韓国持ってきたり、日本持ってきたりすることに、ものすごくセンシティブになってるの。北朝鮮以上に。今、ただ北朝鮮自身が核装備しちゃってるから、中国にとっては、ただ北朝鮮と中国は、なんていうかな、親子みたいな関係で思ってるから、中国は。そんなに中国に向かってってことは北朝鮮絶対しないから、ただ中国が一番恐れてるのは、北朝鮮に対抗して、アメリカが核軍備を、中国に近いところに持ってくるのを一番恐れてる。だから、サードはいいんだけど、まだ。でもサムソンはそれでもって潰されちゃってんだよね。中国のマーケットなくなっちゃったから。ものすごい打撃だよね。で、今度はアメリカがさ、韓国に核弾頭持ってきたらさ、中国大騒ぎだよね。なぜ持ってこれないかって韓国経済崩壊しちゃうからね、持ってきたら。中国によって。
韓国がですか？じゃあ、例えば沖縄に置いたらどうなんです
か？沖縄、中国安心してる。日本人は青だから、核に対するセンシティビティが高いから、そんなことありえないと思ってる。それ、現実的にありえない。ね？日本国民は核アレルギーあるから、核装備することは考えられない。これからも。憲法9条変えたとしても。
米軍基地に入る。アメリカ軍が沖縄の米軍基地に入る。
いや、絶対日本は、日本人は、許さない。可能性があるのは韓国あるよね。でも、韓国は絶対それを、ムンジャインは絶対許さない。なぜ許さないかというと、許しちゃったら、中国が韓国経済封鎖したら韓国は国は滅びちゃうから。今のヒュンダイだってもう潰れそうなんだから。あんなことやったらやられたら。だから縮み上がってんだよ、今。ムンジャインを。なおかつ、あいつはさ、北朝鮮にお金をね、何億ドルか、無償提供しようとして、トランプに怒られたでしょ？だからさ、それは絶対やらないじゃん。やったら、コリアなくなっちゃうから。それはできない。だから中国はそれはない。ただ、核爆撃機は、裁判まで来たんだよね。それがアメリカのその最先端。あとは空母は核装備してるから。空母派遣すればね。それは脅威になるわけですよね。だからそういうふうなことは、だから、例えばサイパンに核設備を常備設備するっていうと、やっぱり中国はもっとナーバスになりますよね。それは十分にあり得る。で、トランプ自身も、制裁するったってできないの分かってて言ってんだよね。まあ、結果としてはさっき言ったように、北朝鮮を国として認めて、で、まあ、パキスタンと一緒だよね。核装備を持った国家として認めて、北朝鮮潰せなくなるっていうことだよね。だからそういうふうなシナリオが、結論じゃないですかね。半年から3年以内で。それ以上は北朝鮮持たないんだよ、国が。だから、金正恩は、ものすごい爆心を張ってんだよ、今。要するに国内が、暴動で崩壊するか、アメリカが核を認めるか。ものすごい彼は賭けをしてるわけで、夜も寝られないような。 俺はそこまで、俺なりにそう考えてんだけどね。そう考えてる人が何人いるかわかんないけど、そんなこと言ってるの日本で少なくとも俺だけだけど、でもこうやっていっぱい、英語の資料読んでると、そんな気がするんですけどね。まあそういうことでね、あと1時間したら戻るからね。はい。はい。はい。よいしょ。あれ、高橋。
じゃあまたかけるね。うん。じゃあね。
はい。はい、じゃあ始めましょ
う。あ、すいません。
Kim Jong-il has survived into the 21st century, while other old-style communist regimes are long gone. But since its inception, North Korea has always been unique among totalitarian socialist societies. What makes it different, and a key factor in Kim's survival, is his cynical exploitation of deeply rooted cultural traditions to manipulate and control the minds and hearts of his people.
The North Korean system that seems so strange to outsiders makes a lot of sense to Koreans because it fits in very well with their traditional worldview, with the history they've come out of and these notions of social hierarchy, reverence for the leader. Those are all things that are reinforced by this cultural identity.
To understand how Kim has succeeded in capitalizing on this age-old cultural identity, we must look to the history of the proud and determined people of Korea. For 1,300 years, Korea was a thriving and highly advanced civilization, living in relative peace as an independent and unified nation. But Korea's unique position in the geography of the region made it a tempting target. As the 20th century approached, Japan invaded the peninsula with the intention of conquering the mainland. Instead, they took Korea. Korea remained a colony of Japan for 35 years.
Koreans were given Japanese names. The speaking of Korean was discouraged. The eating of Korean food was derided. And when they were crossed, the Japanese could be very brutal.
The Japanese forced tens of thousands of young Korean women to work as sexual slaves, essentially, for the Japanese military, so-called comfort women, as well as mobilizing hundreds of thousands of Koreans for forced labor in Japanese mines and factories. They imprisoned and killed thousands of Koreans who resisted. It was a policy of cultural obliteration of Korea's independent identity.
Japan is finished as a major world power. Japan's dream of empire finally ended with their defeat in World War II. For the first time in over 50 years, Koreans saw hope for their freedom and fully expected to once again become a peaceful, independent nation. But while the United States had...
これ正しくないんだよね。これ、ピースフルじゃなくて、この後、30年軍政が続いたんだよね。
Extensive plans for post-war Japan, it was almost totally unprepared for what to do with Korea. But Russia was prepared. Just prior to Japan's surrender, Soviet troops swept south deep into Korea. The U.S. had no forces in place to prevent them from occupying the entire peninsula and was frantic for a solution.
On August 10th, 1945, there was a meeting of senior leaders of the U.S. government. Around midnight, they sent two colonels, one of whom was Dean Rusk, our future Secretary of State, into another room with instructions to draw a line across the Korean peninsula where the United States would divide occupation duties with the Soviet Union. Mr. Rusk said in his memoirs that he had no preparation for this task, and all he had was a National Geographic map.
There was nothing on the map to indicate a natural boundary, so they simply drew a line approximately halfway down the peninsula at the 38th parallel, just north of the capital, Seoul. In the years that followed, this arbitrary border hardened into a barrier, separating families and loved ones from each other.
This was a disastrous decision. The Koreans had no input on the country being divided. They were bitterly opposed to this. No Koreans accepted this dividing line as anything permanent. and most wanted to get rid of that line at any cost.
One man determined to reunify Korea at any cost is Kim Il-sung, the legendary father of Kim Jong-il. Chosen by Soviet Premier Joseph Stalin to lead North Korea, he will become like a god to his people. But his dream of reunifying his country will result in a devastating catastrophe. Kim Il-sung's unique position among communist dictators after World War II is rooted in his fierce independence and defiant spirit. He begins his career as a guerrilla fighter against the hated Japanese.
Kim wasn't just a Soviet stooge like some of the people that Stalin was putting into power in Eastern Europe. He was a genuine nationalist that the Koreans could respect as someone who really spent his whole life up to that point fighting the Japanese. And he did seem to have a certain charisma.
The legends of his daring do, of course, were very much used, and the cult of personality immediately began to be put in place and has continued to this day.
The systematic development of Kim's cult of personality depends primarily on a ceaseless campaign of propaganda.
It seems as if Kim Il-sung was the sole independence fighter against the Japanese. That Kim Il-sung is a military genius. That's how children are taught.
We
were told that he crossed the river on a bridge of leaves, and that he threw pine cones, and they turned into grenades. We heard this over and over, and we really believed that. So, naturally, we idolized him.
The idolization of Kim Il-sung goes beyond the usual barrage of half-truths and hyperbole. Kim enhances his godlike image by exploiting long-held cultural traditions rooted in Confucianism.
He developed an ideology called the Juche, that is self-reliance, which is based on Confucian civilization. It's Confucian civilization in the sense that you have the family system, and the state is an extended version of the family, and therefore the leader is a father.
これ、チェチェシステムって、コンフューシャス、孔子のあれがベースなんですよね。
And North Koreans think that way about their leadership. The leadership they support because they're the parents. And they don't choose their parents. They're simply there. That's what underlies the Juche ideology.
Juche uses the kind of organic metaphor of the whole society, the state, as a single body, with the head being the leadership and the people being the main body of the society, and that you can't have one without the other. People have to move as one entity.
Unlike Marxist-Leninist ideology, this is more spiritual determinism-based doctrine, which is Confucianism. When you have the will, you can move the mountains.
これ彼の独裁政権はうまい具合に、儒学をうまく取り入れたんだよね、国家の政策に。だから、終身生活国平天下で、要するに、家族は、キム・ジョンイルが家族の、家父長制のヘッドだっていう、そういう教育をして、で、ただ彼らが、なんで中中システムがうまくいったかっていうと、やっぱり儒学がしっかりしてるから、それベースなもんだから、なんていうか説得力を持ったんだよね。
On June 25th, 1950, Kim Il-sung launches a massive invasion of South Korea.
In Northeast Asia, the latest hotspot in the Cold War,
Almost all analysts in the United States thought that it was Joseph Stalin who told Kim Il-sung to go conquer South Korea.
Russian-controlled North Koreans with typical red disregard for international decency, invading their fellow countrymen to the south.
That was the official script. But we know today that it was the other way around. It was Kim Il-sung who asked Stalin.
Stalin didn't like this idea at first because he didn't want to provoke the Americans. He didn't want to trigger World War III over Korea, which was not that important to him compared to Europe. Eventually, Kim convinced Stalin that they could get away with this.
Kim predicts that the conquest of South Korea will take only 30 days. The war drags on for more than 3 years.
The tragedy is still vivid in my mind. I was 15 at the time. It was frightening. All houses burned down. Rubble, block after block. Burning. Starvation. Everybody living in sheds. When I think of those days, I shrivel. I tremble.
When the ceasefire is finally declared in 1953, North Korea has gained nothing. The original border at the 38th parallel is restored. The country is still split in two. Nearly 400,000 South Koreans have died. 37,000 Americans. North Korea and its ally China have lost 1,400,000. The Soviet Union has suffered virtually no casualties.
Kim was clearly disappointed at the low level of real military backing that he got from Stalin, and that he never completely overcame.
This sense of mistrust and betrayal reinforces Kim Il-sung's philosophy of self-reliance at all costs. It will guide his actions and those of his son and successor Kim Jong-il for years to come. Beneath the smiles of Kim Il-sung and the leader of Communist China, Mao Zedong, by the 1960s, tensions are brewing.
The Chinese wage what they call the Great Cultural Revolution in China, and they come to Korea, and they tell Kim Il-sung that you are a bad communist, you look too fat, and you have so many palaces in the different resort areas, and how can a very frugal communist act in that fashion? Kim Il-sung don't stand for this and kick them out, and recalls the ambassador from China and tell Chinese ambassador to go home. Nobody could tell North Korea what to do.
This is the environment in which Kim Il-sung's oldest son, Kim Jong-il, begins his rise to power. His rapid ascension through the ranks culminates in 1980. Kim Il-sung, known to all as Great Leader, officially designates Kim Jong-il as
80年はもう、中国は、カルチャーレボリューション終わってたんだね。76年に終わったのかな。ちょっと時代パッと飛んじゃってるけど。でも文化大革命が、北朝鮮に影響しなかったんだよね、全くね。
as successor. He is now to be known as Dear Leader.
Suddenly this myth appears that Kim Jong-il was born on sacred Mount Paektu, a mythical place where the Korean people supposedly originated in the far distant past, and that at the time of his birth, in the middle of February, flowers bloomed, there was a double rainbow in the sky, and the whole world knew that a great new leader had been born.
In reality, Kim Jong-il is born in a Russian military camp in the Soviet Union on February 16, 1942. At the end of World War II, he moves with his family to Pyongyang, the new capital of North Korea. Little is known about Kim Jong-il's early life. His first job, at age 22, is in the propaganda section of the party.
He made propaganda films. He made musicals. He staged plays. So he's naturally get involved with the actresses. He's been called a playboy, and he likes the women, and he likes to drink, and all the what artists enjoy that he really enjoys.
He particularly likes certain genres of films, such as horror films, including the Friday the 13th series, Elizabeth Taylor films, and westerns.
At some stage, he decided that the actresses and actors in North Korea were not very good. And so he said, I would like to have Miss Chae, who was one of the more noted actresses in South Korea, here to make movies. And so they kidnapped her.
In 1978, Chae Hyun-hee is kidnapped by North Korean agents. When she arrives in North Korea, she is greeted by the dear leader himself.
There was a voice. Welcome to North Korea. I'm Kim Jong-il. I felt I was now to be killed. I felt as if all my blood fell down to my feet.
6 months later, Miss Chae's husband, the renowned film director Shin Sang-ok, is also kidnapped. Over the next 3 years, they are forced to make films for Kim Jong-il, including a North Korean version of Godzilla.
We had money and all kinds of conveniences, but we didn't have freedom. I was 60 then. I couldn't die there.
Shin and Chae eventually escape, but the practice of kidnapping becomes an integral part of Kim's strategy for destabilizing his enemies. Between 1977 and 1983, several Japanese citizens vanish without a trace.
The North Koreans said we needed Japanese role models so that we could learn from them how to behave like Japanese and how to sound like Japanese when we spoke.
The purpose is for North Korean agents to pose as Japanese, thus providing cover and deniability while engaging in acts of sabotage against South Korea. By the mid-1980s, South Korea is the model of a modern capitalist nation.
この頃俺北朝鮮行ったんだよ。
そうなんですか？
うん。だから、例の拉致した人たちとか、淀号とか、俺は会わなかったけど、前の奥さん会ったみたい。
Its booming economy is a constant source of resentment to Kim, whose own economy is on the brink of disaster. Adding insult to injury, Seoul is internationally recognized as a world-class city when it is designated as host of the 1988 Olympics. Determined to intimidate participants and disrupt the Games, North Korea turns to its strategy of abduction and sabotage to perpetrate an act of terrorism, allegedly at the direction of Kim Jong-il.
858 just disappeared.
In 1987, 2 North Korean agents posing as Japanese tourists plant a bomb on board a Korean Airlines flight headed to Seoul. Soon after they deplane at a stopover, the bomb explodes, killing 115 people. The capture of 25-year-old Kim Hyun-hee is a sensation. When asked why she did it, Kim Hyun-hee claims that she was brainwashed from early childhood to worship and obey the great and dear leaders of North Korea. To many, this sounds far-fetched. But to those who have experienced North Korea's system of indoctrination, it has the ring of truth.
어렸을 때 진짜 유치원 때부터 그런 걸 배워요. 이렇게 In kindergarten, we start learning about Kim Jong-il and Kim Il-sung's birthdays. On those days, they give candies and other gifts, and there are portraits of them. And then we bow in front of them and say, "Thank you, General Kim Il-sung." And then we take the gifts.
미국은 늑대,
As I grew up, we learned that the US is the American imperialist wolf. We were taught that American missionaries came to Korea and they committed all kinds of barbarous acts. And so if somebody stole an apple, then the missionaries caught the child and then burned on his forehead the word thief with acid. So people in North Korea think Americans are cannibals. And young children, when they learn this stuff, they think it's real history.
I didn't know anything about the outside world. I thought North Korea was the best place in the whole world, a paradise.
If you are brainwashed into thinking that you are living in the world's best country and you have no alternative sources of information, then it is much more possible for the dictator to control you.
What Kim Jong-il fears most is his people getting to know the outside world. As people get to know about the outside world, he will come crashing down.
As the 1980s end, the Soviet Empire begins to crumble. Communist regimes throughout Eastern Europe are toppled. The Berlin Wall is torn down. And finally, the USSR dissolves. Yet North Korea seems impervious to this turning of the tide. In fact, Kim Il-sung uses the collapse of communism elsewhere to further rally support for his ideology of independence.
The North Koreans did not see Kim Il-sung as repressive. He was always held up as the heroic leader who was fending off these evil influences from outside, and that only by supporting him fully could the North Koreans win full independence.
Increasingly isolated in an ever more hostile world, Kim Jong-il, now head of the military, looks for options to ensure the security of his father's regime. He turns to a nuclear weapons program begun in the early 1980s. Despite Kim's denials, U.S. intelligence has confirmed its existence. It will soon lead North Korea to the brink of a full-scale war with the United States.
ということは核開発は彼らは30年以上やり続けていたんだよね。それはやっぱりアメリカ騙していたってのはやっぱりすごいよね。まあ実際にはその当時、強制的にやってればね、彼らは実際に核実験とかいろいろ言ってたけど、やってなかったのかもしれないんだよね、実質的にはね。
On the morning of June 16, 1994, President Bill Clinton calls together his top advisors for what amounts to a war council. Plans for the deployment of a massive military force to South Korea are on the table. Satellite photos have revealed compelling evidence that North Korea is attempting to build a nuclear bomb.
We were preparing for the possibility of war in a very serious way, planning, first of all, for a strike on the nuclear complex, but secondly, for the war that could well have resulted had the North Koreans launched an invasion of South Korea. That all looked very, very real to us at the time.
The Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962 is the most dangerous moment the world has seen. I think 1994 is the second.
In fact, the Secretary of Defense...
この1994年の時に、だから2020年前か。アメリカ政府騙されちゃったのね、北朝鮮。
Defense Perry was briefing President Clinton in the Oval Office on a reinforcement plan at the very moment that former President Carter, Jimmy Carter, called President Clinton from Pyongyang and said, hold on, I've been talking to Kim Il-sung, and maybe there's some negotiated agreement that can be reached.
President Carter has gone to Pyongyang to try to negotiate a diplomatic solution.
だから多分ね、カーターが平壌に行って、 交渉したのが失敗かな。だから、要するに、それなりにこう、
Solution to the crisis.
It is now past midnight Friday morning in North Korea. And
He appears on CNN to announce his achievement.
President Kim Il-sung has committed himself to...
Carter saved Clinton's bacon because the Clinton administration had the idea that pressure is the only way you can deal with a problem like this. They had no understanding of North Korean psychology, which is that simply made them more determined to resist the pressure and show that they would not be cowed down by the mighty superpower.
Carter has averted a military showdown. In exchange for oil and other sources of energy and the eventual normalization of relations with the United States, the North Koreans agreed to freeze their nuclear program. But while the terms of the agreement are being negotiated, an
この時まだ、キム・ジョンイルはまだ生きてるね。
unexpected
キム・イルソンは生きてる。
event rocks North Korea. Kim Il-sung suddenly dies of a heart attack. The shock is felt even by those aware of his abuses who have escaped to the south.
これ、僕は今、北朝鮮の人泣いて騒いでるけど、これ嘘泣きだと思ったんだけど、本当に泣いてるみたいね、この時は。それぐらい、キム・イルソンって偉大だったんだ。本当みたい
When Kim Il-sung died, I wept. I really mourned.
これ本物みたい。
We couldn't believe it. He seemed immortal. Many died from excessive mourning and weeping.
I felt, okay, this is the end. We are finished. I thought we wouldn't be able to carry on without Kim Il-sung.
The new leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-il, lacks his father's charismatic command. Many predict that his government will soon...
OK、来たんで、次はだから、来週ちょっと残り、15分くらいあるんで、これとあと脱北者の、本の解説があるんで、それ少しやってから、来週はコリアやりましょう。
ありがとうございます。
で、エド来たんで、You come here. じゃあ一回落とすね。はい。北朝鮮今日と来週。今日と来週。疲れた。
That's not good, because today you'll need all your brain power. We're gonna have a intensive afternoon.
What do you mean intensive?
Intensive. Not so easy.
Really? 今日、ソメヤ午後来る人は来ないな、あいつ。ソメヤ。
あ、ソメヤ。
He said he's supposed to come, but he doesn't.
先週も来るはず。
いや、来たんだけど、午後来た。He came afternoon, so not morning.
いやいや、he didn't come last week.
No, he came afternoon. Morning is...
No, he didn't come.
He did? No, he came.
Did we... maybe we changed it last... we did the Monday. Monday, we had a morning session.
Yeah.
Right.
So he came afternoon. He mistaken. Okay, come here.
How is your table? You want to have it wiped underneath? Under your computer?
Can you come here?
これしてるね。So yesterday we had a speech contest in my speech club.
What kind?
It was a tall tale contest. It's again
Toastmaster.
Toastmasters. So
English speaking?
English and Japanese contest.
Oh,
I
Japanese.
entered the English contest.
Yeah.
I won the English contest, but Yuku won the Japanese contest.
Oh, she got something prize?
No, she won the first prize. So
Oh.
represent our club. Ah. Ah, the would you mind switching on the projector?
Oh.
Ah, well, we can switch it on. We can also leave it, and then we have a better image. And I can share my screen with you if you want.
No, you can go gracias.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, it's coming. What's happening? It looks like you're cold. Are you wearing a t-shirt, or it looks like it's pretty cold over there? Ah, okay. Must be hot, no?
It's cool.
Oh, really? Where are you?
What do you mean? No, I'm making, I turn the air conditioner on.
Ah. やりすぎじゃないですか? Okay, I'm going to share my screen with you. lest I forget, because I always seem to forget to share my screen with you. Alright. Okay, now. Okay, first I should start the recorder.